Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the Royals and Johnny Depp. Our user feedback is about last week's episode, and we end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 76. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra. I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
I gotta look at my thing and figure out what I was gonna say. I don't even remember. Okay. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So we have one more episode out next week, and then we're gonna take 2 weeks off for the holidays. So we'll be back with a new episode on January 10th.
So you mean we'll be recording another episode next week, and then it'll come out the Sunday before Christmas?
Yes, I phrased it wrong. So we'll have one new episode next week, and then we're going to take 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in those 2 weeks, we're going to have some lighter posting, we're going to have holiday hours.
Yeah. For us, that's hardcore work. I mean, you do all the work, but but other people get less time to slack off because they don't have as much to read. But yeah, we'll have holiday hours, later posting around the holidays and stuff.
I remember one Christmas we were like, no, this year we're really going to do lighter hours. And it was that Christmas that Meghan had married into the royal family. And there was tons of royal news just right around Christmas. It was crazy.
Was that 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. That wasn't that long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened 3 years ago, too, because they were engaged, and there was a lot of news around that.
Oh, but yeah.
I just remember the 2018 Christmas, because that was the start of the real smear campaign, and it was just story after story after story.
Yeah, that's crazy. Sorry you had to do that. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. I was watching YouTube and it recommended that I watch those How It's Made videos because I used to watch them a long time ago when my son was little because he loved them. So I started watching them on my own, and the older ones from the Science Channel are super relaxing. They have this really calm voice guy and calm music. You watch people make stuff. Sometimes you watch a conveyor belt. And I watched 5 or 6 of them, and I was like, I love this. I'm going to watch these every night.
I'm a big fan of just self-soothing videos. It's like cat videos, dog videos. If I have several hours to myself and nothing really to do or nothing really to watch, I'll sit there and watch videos of dogs greeting soldiers when they come home.
That makes me cry.
I'll just spend hours crying over those videos. It feels very cathartic, but it's also soothing. Every video has a happy ending,
Dogs freak out and they always remember you. That's the nice thing about dogs. When I visit my friends' dogs, they're like, oh my God, it's you. I'm like, oh, I'll talk to their dogs before I say hi to them. I mean, I haven't seen anybody since March, but I'll be greeting their dogs and they're like, hello, I'm here.
Yeah, my dog, when I had a dog, he was given to me when he was just a puppy, but he had lived with friends of my dad's. And he still remembered those friends. Every time he saw them, he would freak out. And he only knew them for a few months when he was a baby puppy.
That's adorable. I don't think I told this story on the podcast. I might have. I used to walk my mom's dog when I lived in my old neighborhood. And the dog, she would freak out around this one house and always want to stop there. And I was with my mom in the car and we drove past that house and she's like, oh, my friend who I met in dog training class lives there. And I was like, oh, that's the house that Sassy always makes me stop at. And she sniffs around.
She knew that a friend lived there. That's cute.
Yeah. I've told that story so many times. I'm surprised.
I don't think you've told the story on the podcast though.
Okay. All right. So we'll put some links in the post to the cat videos and to my favorite How It's Made videos so people can see those.
Yeah, I've been obsessed with some of the cat Twitter accounts. They're real cute.
Aw. I like that one that you post a lot. It's got a funky name. It's like cat in place where it shouldn't be or something like that. And it has cats like in the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging underneath tables, and you could see them just sitting there. I like bodega cats too, but it always makes me feel like they're getting their hair all over all the groceries and stuff.
I love bodega cats. I love that account. They're real cute. I like the cats who just act like they own the store.
Yeah. They're sitting on the ATM or the LaCroix boxes. They're just like, good luck getting it. So the big thing this week, which was awesome and awful at the same time, was that Will and Kate had what they announced was going to be a 3-day royal tour of England, Scotland, and Wales, and ended up being a whole 48 hours.
I mean, they stretched the 48 hours over 3 days, but it was less than 48 hours. Like, they started Sunday night, they ended early Tuesday evening.
Okay.
But yeah, it was stupid.
It was dumb on so many levels. And last week, I was so mad at Kate for her 5 insights, which were just asinine and stupid. And it just was so transparently bad. This was even worse. Like, I can't imagine how they could have done a shittier job unless they met nurses and were breathing on them, which the nurses wouldn't let them do. But they were breathing on everybody else. I really cannot imagine them doing a shittier job.
Like, the 5 big insights was so obviously just busy work, and it was chaotic neutral. It didn't do anything bad or good. It was just such a stupid waste of time.
I like that.
This was chaotic evil. The tour was chaotic evil.
Yeah.
And it was supposedly their big idea. They were super keen, and they asked the Queen to give them permission to use the royal train and ride around 3 countries, breathing on people, like you said.
During a fucking pandemic, they didn't consistently wear masks. We saw them interacting with little kids who were maskless and like bending over in their faces. So the Scottish First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, was shady about their visit. She basically said, direct any questions to the royal family.
I think Will and Kate knew that they were actually edging up to a real political controversy when they went to Scotland, because they were in and out of Scotland pretty fast. Like, they went to Edinburgh. It felt like they only spent an hour there, and then they were back on the train.
I mean, that's pretty typical for them anyway, so who knows if they meant to do that. 15 minutes to a half hour is their idea of a hard day.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the Welsh health minister was a little more direct, and he said, I'd rather that no one was having unnecessary visits, and their visits isn't an excuse for people to say that they are confused about what they're being asked to do. So they're not wearing masks, they're encouraging crowds, and they're setting a terrible fucking example.
Yeah, all right, not to defend them, but they didn't... No, seriously, I'm not defending them at all. They didn't encourage crowds. They did not, announce ahead of time exactly where they were going to show up. They didn't announce an itinerary. So they said that they didn't announce that stuff because they didn't want big groups to gather. So they just wanted to basically go all these different places and just pose for photos every now and then. That's all they wanted to do.
And invite people.
Breathe on some children.
That's fair. Yeah, it was pretty bad, though. And what else?
Boris Johnson. First, the Downing Street spokesperson. So the spokesperson for Boris Johnson was he was stonewalling big time. He was just ask the palace. Just ask the palace. We're not going to comment either way. Just ask the palace about the tour.
And then they said the PM is delighted to see the warm reception the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have received on their hugely valuable tour of England, Scotland, and Wales.
Yeah. I mean, that was just idiotic. And as I theorized in several posts, I think Boris Johnson actually probably did want them to go make asses out of themselves on a 48-hour extravaganza, because the Brexit headlines are so bad. He needed something to deflect. I think that's why he was okay with the tour.
And there's the question of whether they were sent out to be a distraction.
Yeah, but then again, if you think about it, they're so lazy. I don't think that if Boris Johnson was like, you guys really need to go out there and make asses out of yourselves, can you really help me out? They'd be like, fuck you. No, we're not doing that. It had to be their idea.
They really distracted from the crown, though. That was something that was brought up in the meeting on Zoom, is that they distracted from the crown.
Yeah, they did.
So for a little bit, we stopped talking about Prince Charles. And we really talked about this for a while on Zoom. And here's a segment from that. This is Zakiya, Karen, Courtney, Rhiannon, and Amira.
I can't believe that someone thought it was a good idea. And let's take them on a train ride, and their assistants, their aides, their security. It amazes me how bad they are at this. And they thought that this would be well received.
It was just off the chart. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The cases in the UK are rising, and you think it's a good idea to go on this struggle tour and not wear a mask around little children.
And especially even some of the friendly outlets were talking about how Royal Train, the most expensive way to travel. Oh, and then I loved that you kept using the pictures of their breath, that it was so cold that you could see their breath, because it's just like so obvious.
I think the thing for me is it would have been better had they just had Zoom meetings, and then have the train or whatever mode of transportation drop off supplies at each one of their stops. I found the whole thing asinine, and if you guys want to stone me, you can, but all the thank you for all that you do is really, to me, it's kind of like an F you to the people who are in the trenches, the same way that clapping was. Like, clapping, no, don't clap for them. Give them what they need to do their jobs every day.
I will stand next to you.
I thought it was gross.
I will stand next to you and get stoned as well, because like every time there's teacher appreciation weeks, I'm like, what would make me feel appreciated is if you gave us like a day off to like plan and grade and get caught up, and buy me some free tasty food. That would be stuff that would make my life tangibly better. So I 100% agree that giving them supplies, even if it's just like, here's some gift cards for Waitrose, the local grocery stores out there, or here's some gift cards where you guys can get some food, or like better yet, we're reviving your local economy. Here's a struggling restaurant. We just paid for $1,000 worth of dinners that are going to be delivered to your home, so you guys don't even have to worry about going and picking up that food. I am 110% in agreement with you.
And I'll go one better. I mean, food, okay, give them PPE. They need PPE. You can't tell me with all the money that Will, Kate, and everybody else has, they can't get a deal with such and such, such and such. Think about the type of publicity they would get to say, we worked with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to get face masks, sanitizer, wipes, whatever these people needed, practical things they could use every day. So I thought the whole thing was gross. And I don't mean to give COVID to anyone, but God forbid anyone get COVID as a result.
Or maybe talk to families who have been affected by the coronavirus, someone who has had family members that died or their own experiences, and highlight the importance of just being careful. And then maybe give them an opportunity. It's like, the doctors and the nurses at this hospital were just amazing to me, and they provided such good care. And I just want to say thank you and blah, blah, blah. I mean, everything is always about them. And like you said, they could have easily done the train ride and had supplies delivered to the local hospitals. It's Christmas time. I know it's going to be hard. Here's some gift cards, anything. But I didn't understand the whole point of this tour. I mean, it's like they didn't really do anything. I don't know if they just were bored. Read the room. This was just not a good idea.
I just don't think they had any real planning involved in it. Like, there was no real strategy, no real point of view. It was just like, hey, I know, let's get on a train and make a bunch of stops and shake some hands, because they feel that works for them. That's their wheelhouse. And what they don't get is that the world has shifted and no one wants anything from that anymore. They're like, why are you here? Why are you putting people in danger? Why aren't you wearing a mask? You're completely irrelevant because you're not offering anything to anyone.
So yeah, all they had to show was themselves. They could have brought gift cards. They could have brought gifts for kids. They had a huge ass train they could have filled with gifts. They didn't do any of that.
That's a really good point. I mean, like, think about, say, what Michelle Obama would have done. Like, she would have delivered gifts, especially to underprivileged kids. It would have been like, oh, here are all these gifts that we're going to donate to Salvation Army. Or they could have chosen any charity to work with locally. But no.
It was supposed to be for frontline workers. It was all about Will and Kate. We didn't even hear their stories or get profiles of them. At the very least, they could have put on their social media profiles of specific nurses and doctors and hospital workers and what they were doing. Or, as Karen said, families who've been affected. They could have given PPE, like Rhiannon said.
This is like the 5 big insights debate, though. Like, yeah, Kate could have worked with experts. She could highlight their work. She could put the experts first and foremost. But that's not the point of any of this. The point of all of this is busy work and putting them in front of cameras and them performing their keenness. That's all they do.
They're so terrible at this. They're so bad at this. And not even modeling proper mask wearing. Like, it's just infuriating.
That is the barest fucking minimum, and none of the royals have been able to do it. None of them. Even if there are different regulations in different countries, even if, I'm outside, I don't need to wear a mask exactly. You should still do it. You know, we've said this in podcast after podcast. We've said it in post after post. If you are a public figure, it is your responsibility to model mask-wearing behavior.
Even if you're outside, you should be wearing a mask meeting people.
Yeah, and to see them leaning over children and breathing on them, and to, like, see their breath in the cold air.
Everyone loved that picture that you kept using. I thought before that they were useless, and now I think they're actively harmful. I mean, we knew what they did to Meghan, but they just keep showing over and over again who they are.
Yeah, they're just lazy and horrible.
And the whole shit where they went to Windsor Castle and the Queen met them and other royals were out there. Oh, good job. It's such,
And none of them were wearing masks. They kept putting on and off. Yeah, it was stupid. Oh, and it was expensive too.
Yeah, you were estimating it was, and other people backed that up, it was around 100,000 pounds.
Yeah, just for the royal train. Like, don't even talk about, like, security, the staffers that they had with them to organize. They had some sort of videographer there to make and post those social media videos, which are horrible. The videos are really not doing what they think they're doing.
They could have got camera kits and sent them to frontline workers, people who work in stores, people who work in hospitals, and then highlighted their stories. That was the most successful thing that Kate ever did, was let other people take the pictures. Yeah. So let them take videos and tell their stories and curate those, boom, and then go give them a bunch of gift cards or whatever. I don't know. I'm done talking about them. Fuck.
No, that sounds like a perfect idea. But of course they wouldn't do that.
All right, so let's move on to Johnny Depp. You and I are going to talk about this, but I am not writing one word about it in the post, because what'll happen is his fans will come and downvote our podcast. I'm serious. Not his fans, his bots. So I'm not going to write about it in the post. This is if you're listening to us, you're getting a bonus. Johnny Depp is covering The Hollywood Reporter in a piece that calls him radioactive. And it basically lays out the ways that he screwed himself, and he's now persona non grata in Hollywood. He had so many chances. He's continuing to sue Amber Heard. You know, he lost the case in England, and he's suing her in Virginia, and that case is going to go to trial next year.
Yeah, like in a month it's going to go to trial. You know, I read and covered the entire piece, and I was shocked at some of the stuff that was in there. I felt like, oh shit, maybe I should have been paying more attention to the British court case, because I did not have the energy or the interest in following all the ins and outs of it, especially because so many of the British outlets that were covering the case on a daily basis were so exploitative. It really bothered me. All of the daily headlines about, you know, Amber claimed this, and then Johnny said she was a whore, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I can't even focus on any of that.
Plus, we stopped covering Johnny for good reason, because people would inundate our site with comments that were really hateful to Amber and smearing Amber. And I ran the IP addresses of them, and they were mostly all foreign. People had never commented before, and it was a really coordinated bot attack.
Right.
It was really obvious to me that they were hired. And that's basically what the piece said too, is that Johnny Depp hires bots to amplify his bullshit online and his toxicity.
Right. And we were noticing, because they were talking about it openly, the Pajiba writers were dealing with the same kind of bot attacks when they covered the THR story yesterday.
And they were getting hate on Twitter as well.
Right. As I was saying, like, I didn't follow the court case. Like, I didn't realize that there were so many text messages that were part of the case. I didn't know that, like, Johnny Depp had texted Paul Bettany and talked about burning Amber Heard and destroying her, and she's a witch and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize that there was so much of a paper trail of Depp trying to destroy Amber's career.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Like, I knew that he had done that. I didn't know that there was a paper trail. He was messy as hell.
I had read those horrible text messages because someone told me to, and I looked them up and I was like, holy shit. But I didn't know about him. I heard that he had tried to get her fired, but I didn't know how verifiable that was.
And like, apparently the court case went on and on about his drug use. And so the Hollywood Reporter's piece was just basically like all of these people from studios and producers, directors that have worked with him or thought about working with him. They're like, you know, this guy is unemployable. He's radioactive. Anyone legitimate who wanted to ever work with him won't be able to now. He's a horrible person and no one wants to touch him. Good.
So that's, they're finally standing up to him. And that's something that we've known since we've read Amber's account and seen the blowback against her online. But finally, the industry is catching up.
Yeah, and we debated just between the two of us, like, when should we start to cover Depp again? And I felt like we should do it when there was a verdict. You know, like, that's when we should start easing back into coverage. And I'm glad that we made that decision.
That's when we did.
Because it felt like we took a pause. It was a necessary pause. We didn't exploit the British case. And we're not going to do a ton of coverage about this American case either. I don't have the energy for it. I don't care. Because I feel like it's going to be the same thing as the British case.
And plus, he's still paying people to do this.
Yeah.
He's got firms who are working on this. And it's not worth our trouble. In the piece, they quoted the Time's Up Legal Defense co-founder, Roberta Kaplan. And she said that she has clients who are suing Donald Trump, but by far the one case that has generated the greatest amount of hostile social media attacks is Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. So you know that the MAGAs have bots. You know that they spread misinformation. So they use both bots and misinformation. Johnny Depp is doing that same playbook, and he's as toxic, if not worse, than them.
Right. And the Hollywood Reporter didn't get into this as much. They made some allusions to it when they were talking about his lawyer. But, like, Depp is mobbed up now.
Oh.
Like, he's thick and, like...
His lawyer works with the Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
That's what they wrote.
Yeah.
Ooh. He's mobbed up.
He is. It's like Russian mafia shit.
He's going to be no longer useful at some point.
Well, I mean, it's gross.
I shouldn't say
All
that.
of it's gross.
Yeah, it is really gross. All right, let's move on to the user feedback. So MLE tweeted that listening to you get all fired up over Kate's busy work was exactly what my Sunday was missing. Thank you, MLE.
It was funny.
And yeah, I finally got to my breaking point with them because I just assumed, like I said, I assumed they were just pretty useless before, and now I really actively dislike them. It took long enough.
You'd seen enough. You're like, I'm done with them.
Because I don't have to cover them. Like, you have a higher tolerance for bullshit when you're not writing about them constantly. Yeah. Like, if I had to write about them like you, it would have been a couple years ago at least, maybe farther back, that I would have broken. But this time, it's like... So Tanisha thought your giggle at the end of last podcast was cute. So she liked that, and she tweeted us.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was nice. She tweeted. And then a lot of people related to the story about your cat biting your hair off. So Lucy, too, said her first cat gave her bangs. And Belli said her cats have given her haircuts, too. So I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, there are cats that just like hair. I've had cats that have really loved my hair before, but this Panther Kitty is the first cat who actually bites my hair off. So.
He puts it on.
And yes, he did give me minor bangs trauma.
Yes, Angelina, she got bangs trauma from the cat. She wanted us to say bangs trauma because she hasn't heard it. You write that a lot. You've been writing that for a decade or more. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on the post about the Queen's head housekeeper quitting because she was mad that people wouldn't work for the Queen instead of see their families over Christmas. Like, Detritus wrote, I too really hate when many servants refuse to ruin their Christmas plans to make mine work exactly as it did before.
And like, not for nothing, it wasn't just like the Queen wants people to work on Christmas Day. They would have had to quarantine 4 weeks over the entire holiday and not see their families for 4 weeks. That's ridiculous.
And that's probably the only vacation they get all year. I mean, it's England, maybe they get a little more, but still.
It's insane that the Queen was actually furious that people wouldn't give up 4 weeks with their families for her.
Because she's been getting her way for almost 100 years. You know, this is...
Oh, her dog did die, so poor Queen.
That is sad.
One of the few things I like about the Queen is that a few years ago she said no more new dogs for me. She said these are going to be my final animals on Earth. And she's had those 2 dogs and then one of them died.
Aww.
All right, well, my comment of the week is, I chose a light one. It's from that Brooklyn Beckham is no longer going to be a nepotism photographer. He's going to be a nepotism model. And Emmy says, he can't do both. And Heather C. replied more like he can't do either.
Oh my gosh. He's terrible at taking pictures. And the modeling, air quote, picture he posted for that watch brand was just terrible. Like, he's an attractive kid if you clean him up and pose him nice and frame him right and everything.
Right.
But that picture, he looked like someone held a gun to him to get him to pose for that. It was bad.
He looked cute in the photo with his dad, but I think that David Beckham is just such a good model that he makes everyone else look good. Maybe that's it.
And how has his mom and dad, how have they not taught him how to model? Why doesn't he, well, he has that one girlfriend and she's not like an Insta model or anything, but he could get a friend or hire somebody to help him be better at either job. He just hasn't trained for whatever.
Well, he doesn't think he needs to train. He thinks he's just naturally talented at everything. And here's something I'm worried about. Who is the middle son? It's Brooklyn, then Romeo. Romeo is like obsessed with tennis, and he goes with Wimbledon with his dad. And I keep on thinking that like they're gonna try to nepotize this kid into, they're gonna nepotize him into tennis. And I'm like, oh God, does this kid know that he has to like actually train and like really work hard if he wants to be a tennis player? He can't just stand around and say, I'm a tennis player, guys.
But they built him a 30,000-pound artificial grass tennis court. So.
Yeah.
I just Googled him. It's Romeo's 18 now.
Yeah, Romeo is the one who looks the most like posh, I think.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, we'll see. Tennis is not something you can bullshit your way into. Like, you know, modeling is.
Modeling is something you can bullshit your way into, but you're still going to be a bad model if you don't learn how to do it.
Yeah.
But Kendall Jenner is still making a lot of money, so God knows.
And she's putting down all the other models because they actually have to work and she doesn't. She's like, they're taking too many jobs. Like, yo, they need the money, girl.
God, they're such assholes.
They really are terrible. The Kardashians really pissed me off now this year, too, with their partying and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, well, I feel a little bit sorry for Kim. I think this has been a real rough year for her with Kanye.
She should have left him several years ago, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep hoping that she does leave him. And he's been suspiciously quiet for months now.
Yeah, you were just writing about that when you posted those shoes. Like,
those shoes were horrible.
They're so ugly. Like if they were $40 or something, we'd be like, okay, that's fine. But they're several hundred.
If they were $40, I still wouldn't buy them. Those are horrible.
They're still ugly, but maybe they're like orthopedic. They're good for walking. All right. Thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.